The Biden administration is taking fire for a recent move to expedite the construction of a stretch of wall along the southern border. Laura Barón-Lopez has more.
President Biden says the money for a wall along a portion of the border was appropriated during the Trump administration and that his hands are tied.
Well, I was told that I had no choice, that Congress passes legislation to build something. I can't say I don't like it. I'm not going to do it.
The move is sparking outcry from some immigration advocates and others who point to Biden's 2020 campaign promise.
There will not be another foot of wall constructed on my administration.
Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas tried to clarify the administration's position yesterday.
There is no new administration policy with respect to the border wall.
Joining us to discuss is Washington Post reporter Nick Miroff. Nick, thanks so much. NewsHour spoke to Art Del Cueto of the National Border Patrol Council, a union that represents border agents, and we asked him about the construction of this section of the wall.
It's a knee-jerk reaction, and right now they're doing it a little bit too late. We've had millions of individuals that have come across. The administration has to realize, hey, look, we were wrong. Whether they want to come out and say they were wrong or not, I think them just openly saying we're going to start building more wall, I think that alone proves that they were wrong.
Nick, the president said that he doesn't believe a border wall works, but the data tends to suggest that it also doesn't necessarily serve as a deterrent. So what exactly is the purpose of constructing even just a section of the wall?
Well, what was about the Federal Register notice that the administration published yesterday were two things. One, that they were waiving more than 24 laws, including the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Act, and other environmental protections, but also that they referred to the barrier as an urgent necessity to stop illegal entries in that section of South Texas. We've never seen the administration talk about the barrier that way. And if anything, what we've seen is what the president said, which is the idea that these barriers don't work. So right there, we saw a pretty glaring contradiction in the administration's position on these barriers.
And I'm glad you mentioned the environmental aspect here, because NewsHour also spoke to the Southwest conservation advocate who was frustrated about this border barrier being constructed. We spoke to Lakin Jordahl of the Center of Biological Diversity, and here's what they had to say.
Look, there is no environmentally friendly border wall. These walls will fragment wildlife habitat. They will stop wildlife migrations. They will cut animals off from their main source of drinking water, which of course is the Rio Grande. And there is no way to do this environmental consciously. Perhaps what's even more concerning is that the administration has waived our nation's most important environmental laws, not just to build these walls, but to rush their construction.
Nick, were the president's hands tied, as he suggested today, or was this a choice, as the environmental advocate pointed out?
Yeah, well, he's right that this money was appropriated by Congress to build barriers in these areas. However, since when has the fear of a lawsuit ever stopped this administration from going forward with the immigration policies it wants to pursue? I mean, this administration is facing a number of lawsuits over its border and immigration policies in many different places. And really, it's the decision to waive these environmental laws and other protections to expedite barrier construction that is a break from the past and has raised questions about whether or not the Biden administration is taking a new policy approach with regard to the border wall.
President Biden is also facing incoming from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat who's a trusted ally of the president's 2024 campaign. And Governor Pritzker confronted the administration this week on this.
There are other things the federal government can do other than sending us money that they haven't yet done.
Pritzker also said that the situation is untenable. And Nick, you recently reported on the conditions in cities like Chicago. What are the conditions for the migrants that are there and being bused, many of them, by red state governors?
Sure. Well, the strains on cities like New York, Chicago, Denver, and others have become more and more apparent It's simply too many people arriving too fast. You know, what's different about this current wave of newcomers to the United States, you know, many of whom are fleeing really terrible conditions back in their home countries. One group in particular, Venezuelan migrants, are coming in large numbers to New York in particular. And, you know, Venezuelans who are coming to the United States don't tend to have the same family and friend support networks as previous waves of migrants. And that makes them in some ways more dependent on city services and particularly on shelter. And so in New York, the shelter laws really have, you know, they obligate the city to make sure there are beds for all of the newcomers. That is what's put such a strain on Mayor Eric Adams. But we're seeing this in many other countries, in many other states, and that's why many of these Democratic mayors are calling on the federal government and the Biden administration to do more to support them and to reduce the number of people, or at least the pace at which they're arriving across the border.
Yesterday, Nick, the president also resumed removal flights of Venezuelan nationals who crossed the border unlawfully. Why are they making this change now, and how many people could be affected?
Well, this is in part to address the pressure that they're getting from other Democrats, I think. I mean, what they announced is that they will resume deportation flights to Venezuela. The timing of this is very curious because it comes just 2 weeks after the Biden administration designated Venezuelans for a form of temporary legal status. That protection extends to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans who arrived before July 31st. And so these new deportation flights are going to be oriented toward Venezuelans who cross the border illegally, starting after August 1st, and who don't qualify for some kind of humanitarian protection in the United States. So this is really an effort by the Biden administration to try to put more consequences, as they would say, into the immigration enforcement system and try to steer Venezuelans back to the expanded legal opportunities that they have opened up for Venezuelans, Cubans, and other nationalities over the last year and so in particular.
Nick Miroff of The Washington Post, thank you.
Thanks, Laura.